Hi, guys. In this week's episode of our live stream, as soon as we got connected, I began to lag dramatically and I suffered a whole lot of problems. I was having some issues with Spectrum, long story short. So I did pop in and out until finally things sort of got better in the second half of the whole recording. And of course, so we ran over because we were able to communicate. But you're going to see me pop in and out, and I'm just sort of quiet throughout it. It's because I was lagging during the live stream, and so I could see that my reactions were coming up a little bit behind. Neil talking. So Neil did a great job. As always, he's handed out a whole lot of information. In fact, I had a chance to listen to it, and wow, did he cover a whole lot of ground. So kudos to Neil for doing such a great job while I was struggling here to stay connected. Interestingly enough, Spectrum was outside my house at 10:30 working on the pole that services my cables, so there must have been a problem there. So hopefully it's fixed. And next week, when we do our live stream, we'll be okay. But in the meantime, this is just going to be a better version than the one that's sitting over on the live stream section of the channel. So I've just cut out all the flack, plus the software that I use records everything that we do directly to our computers. So even though I may be lagging live, there's actually a recording there. So before we get started, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Click that bell so you get notified when new videos drop. And again, when we go live each Tuesday. I also want to add to please check your subscription, even if you are subscribed. There's been a whole lot of issues on YouTube where it seems to be that they're suppressing pro-democracy creators like myself. We are a very small channel, and we've always struggled to grow. And now that we seem to be going a little bit more mainstream with our topics, we seem to be getting pushed back some more. And this is happening on even bigger channels. So making sure that you're subscribed, making sure that you are making sure that you've got the bell clicked so you get notified when things are going on, you'll be able to get in, watch, and help our content grow. All right. Thanks so much, and stay tuned for our recorded live stream. Hello. Welcome to the TOWTalk live stream. It is Tuesday night, 8 p.m. And we are getting connected. Just checking all our connections here as we start to.
Hi, how you doing, you matey?
Oh God, please don't do that.
You don't want me to talk in pirate tonight? I can do the whole night be in pirate.
My God, we're gonna have pirate chat.
Or is that going to be too offensive to pirates? No, we can't do that.
Worry about. Oh yeah, here we go. TOWTalk went live. Getting notifications on Twitch. So it looks like Twitch is connected. Let me see. And X is taking its sweet time. Looks like Facebook is connected. So let's get into it little by little. Let me see what we got here. Still.
Wow, you just froze a little bit. I don't know what's going on.
Oh, let me shut everything down there. There we go. Shut everything down in the background. There we go. I have to shut things down in the background. But anyway.
Yeah, you're freezing. I don't know what's going on. You're having some issues now all of a sudden. How's everybody doing tonight? Please feel free to join in the chat, right? Announce yourselves, and join in, ask questions as we're getting situated.
Yeah, it could be. I myself am going to reboot. You guys keep going. I will be right back, and hopefully that will cure the problem.
All right.
All right.
All right. We will welcome you back when you get here.
All right. So, but I see we have an audience. So if you're out there, please ask some questions for Neil, and I'll be back in 5 minutes.
Yeah, please join me. Please join me, as I'm going to end up doing this solo for a bit until Denise comes back.
Okay.
So we'll see how I do with that. But basically, it's a new day. It's Tuesday. Last week was Cinco de Mayo, and Mother's Day was this past Sunday. Would love to hear your Mother's Day story, so please feel free to chime in. Basically, we got a whole mess of new garbage that has joined in with this past week, which has been sort of a mess. The Strait of Hormuz is still closed, and the town still has no money, so we're in great shape, right? So it was good to hear. Basically, one of the things that Frank had talked about was getting a line in the budget. We heard today that Mamdani got a line in New York City to help supplement his budget, so that way he didn't have to make the severe cuts that were mandated by his budget. As I said the other day, I think it's pretty disingenuous of the other side in the town. The Republicans are still maintaining that there are no problems here, that everything is perfect. And I think, from the standpoint of the town, things are not perfect. And I think we all kind of know that and see that. I believe that was one of the reasons why Frank was elected, was the fact that there, that things weren't perfect. And the fact that they lied, right? I mean, it's really hard to trust somebody when they lie about money. I mean, imagine your partner, imagine being at home, your wife or your spouse, your husband is lying to you about your personal finances, right? I mean, that would be a real problem, you know? And I think this is where we are, is they're still lying about the state of the town's finances. And I think admitting that, right, would be a sign of trust that we can vote for these people. Okay. As long as they continue the line that there isn't a problem, that the guys who were on the board did a great fucking job. I can't see how anybody would vote for these people, and that's just not me supporting Democrats. That's just me in general. I mean, there could be some good Republicans. I didn't necessarily think Ralph was a bad guy, right, from the standpoint of him running for supervisor, but the problem is that he lied, right? And he tried to gaslight the public into believing that, right, there's a difference between an accounting problem and a finance problem, right? I mean, the town lost its bond rating. There clearly is both, and to make the distinction between accounting and finance is absolutely ridiculous, because I pointed out the accounting problems. O'Connor Davies pointed out the accounting problems. Nugent Hauser pointed out the accounting problems, and RBT pointed out the accounting problems. I mean, we had CPAs rolling through the town since 2020, or since 2021, right? Rolling through the town, 2020, 2021, rolling through the town, and they still can't admit that there was a problem. They keep saying, "Oh, we solved the problem," but they clearly didn't solve the problem. So I really feel like if they really want us to take them seriously, they have to stop. Okay, they got to stop with the nonsense, right? They got to stop with their fake BS page. Even I mean, people, it's now just a big joke, right? Like it's a cartoon. They don't even allow comments anymore. They don't allow anything. It's just become a big cartoon, and you can see that they're just angry that they lost. They're angry, they're desperate. They want to get back in power and control again so that they can continue to hide money. And that just, we can't allow that to happen. That enough's enough. We have to have transparency. We have to know how our money is being spent. We have to know what our money is being spent on, right? They clearly squandered tons of money, right? They squandered all the ARPA money, right? By rolling it into, by, instead of like taxing and using the budget properly. They used ARPA money to supplement their budget. And then, it's just, it's a mess, and you can't do that. You only could do that for so long too. So, I think, I think we just need a new, a new direction. I think we're on the right path. It is my understanding, based on the Spill the Tea event last week, that the New York State Comptroller's Office is coming back into town hall to complete their audit, which is great. That's good news to hear. As I've stated, a number of things came out of the last audit, including the payroll issues. The real thing that I as a board member never heard was the disbursements. What the results were of the disbursement audit. And you keep hearing, well, they didn't do anything wrong. They were absolved, right? Like, you keep hearing that, but like, keep in mind what that was about, right? The when they said, oh, they didn't do anything wrong, that just related to the theft of money, okay, that was done by the New York State Comptroller's Office, okay? That didn't absolve them of anything else, okay? It was just related to that specific investigation, not the broader investigations that are occurring in the town, related to the town's finances and what they were spending money on, and who had access to the money and all that kind of stuff. Those investigations never, there was just a pause. There was never a completion of those investigations. Not only that, they said that there was tons of wrongdoing by the board. They didn't monitor the town's finances. They didn't do what they were supposed to do. They didn't monitor and review payroll on a regular basis. People were overpaid on a regular basis. People weren't being managed properly. They weren't filing their reports in a timely manner. The reports that they were filing were incorrect and not matching the audited financial statements. I mean, there's a ton of shit here, and we have to acknowledge that in order to be able to move forward. I hate this idea, like, oh, we're just going to move forward with no review of what happened in the past. Like, we're just going to let all that go, right? We hear this on the national level. We hear this on the local level. We hear this on every level. And it's just not true, right? I worked on Wall Street for a number of years, okay? And no matter what project we entered into, we always did a postmortem, okay? There was always a postmortem. Even when I did bankruptcy work, there was a postmortem, okay? You sit there and have to review everything that happened and learn from all your mistakes and figure out what you did well, okay? So that you can continue to do what you did well and repair and fix what you didn't do well, okay? That's the way business operates. I worked at Goldman Sachs, right? That's a Fortune 500 company, number one investment bank in the world. That's what they do. And you're telling me in government we shouldn't do that? How many things are there sunk costs in? How many different initiatives have these politicians gone into where the nothing happened, right? Like, where it didn't work out the way it was supposed to work, right? But they continued to pour money in it because there was never any review or postmortem of, okay, what are we doing right and what are we doing wrong? That seems to be the government, like, methodology with everything.
Oof.
Okay, is we're just going to do something, we're going to keep pouring money into it, and we don't give a shit if it doesn't work, right? But the fact is where we are now, we can clearly see there's tons of waste, there's tons of fraud, there's tons of abuse, right? No one denies any of that. But the issue is what are we doing to review and look at those things, right? What are we doing to ensure that that there aren't these things happening? Okay? The only way you can do that is to do a review and do your postmortem. Okay? And
Damn, I'm
what
still
we're seeing
lagging.
is those things are just not happening. And that becomes really, really frustrating, and we need to make sure that those things are being done. And so what we see in the town now is we see that happening now in our town, right? We're seeing that review. We're seeing what we do right, what we do wrong, and the only way it gets better is if we fix it, okay? And that goes with the state, that goes with the county, that goes all the way up. Okay. And until that happens, we're never going to know. And that's the frustrating thing about everything that we're seeing today is that there is no review, that there's just pouring money into things that just seem to be losing. And we, as average Americans, right? Me as taxpayers, just keep losing because we're pouring our money down sinkholes. And it has to stop. It just has to stop. Okay, at some point in time, I mean, each person we've been putting up the debt clock each week, each person owes $115,000. You don't have $115,000. I don't have $115,000. But yet they're putting out GoFundMe pages to pay down the debt because they don't want to. The billionaires in this country have decided that they don't want to. They've accumulated so much wealth that they don't need our country anymore. And they did it off of our backs. They did it off of the workers' backs. Okay? The workers are the ones who create wealth in this country, not the billionaires. Okay, and until people start understanding that and realizing that we make the businesses run, not them, okay, things aren't going to change in this country. Okay, so Denise is going to come right back, but if anybody has any comments on any of the things that I'm talking about, I'd love to hear from you. Please chime in. I mean, I really this is the most frustrating thing about government to me is the inability to change direction when you clearly are losing. You know, we saw that. I mean, you know, there have been a million movies about the drug wars in this country showing that it's basically been a failed initiative of the government. Okay? And they keep pouring more and more money out of it and we can't seem to get out of our own way because there are some people who are just adamant about prohibition. And I'm sorry, we can go back to the 1920s and earlier to alcohol and there's clearly prohibition doesn't work. Okay? And we've spent so much money that we could have put into education, that we could have put into social programs, that we could have put into programs that would have lifted people up and possibly prevented them from turning to drugs, right? But we choose, but because there are no metrics for that, right? This is like Dare, okay? Everybody talks about Dare being a failed initiative, right? Does everybody
I think I'm
understand
back.
why Dare was a failed initiative? Okay, Dare was a failed initiative because there was no metric to determine if it worked. Okay, there was no metric to determine, right, the number of children that didn't use as a result of Dare, right? Because you're trying to quantify a negative. How do you tell how many people didn't do something because you did something, right? So the way government works is well, it's failed because we can't test it. So we're just going to do the opposite. We're just going to pour money into policing and incarceration because those are metrics that we can see. Okay, we know the number of people that we incarcerate every year. We know the number of people that we arrest every year, and we know the number of people that we convict. We don't know the number of people who didn't turn to drugs because of a program they took in school. Okay, and that this applies to every program out there, right? If something works, it's really hard to quantify if something works, okay? It is less hard to quantify, right? It's easier to quantify when something doesn't work, right? Like, it's easier to quantify when you don't try something and you can say, "Oh, look, we have all these homeless people," right? Like,
Oh my God.
well, great, we didn't do a housing program, so we know we have homeless people. We do a housing program, maybe we can quantify that, but it's much harder because yeah, you may be putting people into housing, but eventually those people leave housing. So you can't quantify how it lifted people up. It's really hard to quantify how it lifted people up in our community. But we do have proof and we do have statistics in this country of certain programs that we know work. Levittown worked. Okay? We know
From
Levittown
Levittown.
worked. Right. Levittown worked. What was the problem with Levittown? Levittown was whites only. That's why they got rid of it, right? Like the Levittown project became HUD, okay?
Oh,
People don't
really?
understand that. Yeah, the Levittown project was to give loans to lower and middle income families so that they could buy and build equity, okay? And they bought and they created this entire community of low income housing that you could purchase, right? And people used the GI program and various other programs to supplement so that they could buy homes in Levittown. And that's how Levittown worked. It was really a government subsidy, but it was whites only.
Mm.
You could only buy into Levittown if you were white. Okay? When in the late 60s, right, Lyndon Johnson passed the civil rights
Civil
laws,
rights in the BRA.
okay, all of a sudden, right, they decided that the Levittown model had to go away because they didn't want, right? I mean, this stems to the institutional racism in our system. Okay? They built HUD and they built projects not to lift people up, but to keep them in renters' prisons. They didn't want
Uh-huh.
minorities, blacks at the time, building up equity. Okay. So that right, like, so we know that there are models that work. We know why those models were changed. Okay. And why we have the models today. And what's interesting is we've had these models that we know have worked, but there's no change. And this is sort of leads into that Black Lives Matter movement, right? That happened a few years ago is we those institutional that institutional racism for which our institutions were built on, okay, were never changed, right? There was never equity or equality built into those.
Right.
Okay? They were always there. And now we put people into renters prisons everywhere, right? Like what is HUD? HUD
Oh,
is
yeah.
just giving housing credits to developers to build apartments, low income workforce housing, what they call workforce housing, right? Um and it's to keep people renting for the rest of their lives, right? There's no like way to build equity when you're renting,
Oh,
you know?
absolutely.
So I really feel like we need, there really needs to be some institutional changes. I think that this is what the democratic socialist movement is intended to help build, right? It's this idea like we need to put Americans first. We need to put, the people first. And that means all people. And I don't give a shit how racist you are. That means all people. Okay? Black, white,
100%.
green. I don't care what the fuck you look like. The we have to put these back in. We have to build everybody up again. We have to build a strong middle class in this country. Basically what's happened is all the income, right? You think about it in the last 50 years, all the gains in income, right? And in wealth have been to the top 1%. Top
Yes.
1% now
Yes.
owns 90% of this country. Okay?
Wow.
That needs to change. We need to turn that on its head, right? They need to pay their share. They need to contribute because now as a country, we are beholden to them. They literally hold, right? our destiny in their hands because they control all the wealth in this country. And I don't think people understand what that means. And them telling you they aren't paying down the debt means, well, somebody's going to have to pay that someday. I know that everybody's like, it hasn't been a big deal. We could just keep running up charges for the rest of our lives. Great.
God, yeah, no.
A lot of people, the baby boomers will probably be dead by that time, right? Maybe the Gen Xers will be dead by that time. I don't know, right? But at some point in time, and I think it's going to be sooner rather than later, that debt's going to have to be paid off. And remember, Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, has to find a way to borrow $3 trillion this year, okay, with nobody lending us money. Nobody's buying our debt. In fact, everybody's selling our debt. So how is he going to be able to do that to sustain us? Because if that doesn't happen, that's going to be, you think oil prices climbing right now are bad. You think food prices are bad. You think egg prices are bad, right? Just wait until Scott Bessent says, I cannot sell our debt. Nobody's buying our debt, and I cannot raise the $2 trillion needed, right, to keep this economy going. Are you back with us, Denise? Are you ready?
I'm back, and I rebooted. So folks, I've had some issues going on with my internet, and I went as far as I had a whole new cable line installed. I moved my modem and router closer together, so that was part of installing this new line. Bought a new router because my other router wasn't actually serving the power I needed, and still having issues. So I did call cable earlier, and they said, "Yeah, we're detecting some kind of resistance in the lines going to the house. So they're sending a technician tomorrow to look at that because everything in the house is fine." And so, so my internet, it's really frustrating, to be honest. Like, it's not the first time this has happened, but that's how all this happened. Not last week, but maybe the week before, I had another issue with live streaming. It's my upload speed. Like, my download speed is screaming. I'm getting 1,000 megabits per second, 1,100 even, but the upload is choking. Um, and part of that is because Spectrum only gives me 40 megabits, or whatever it is, upload, which is, it really should be higher, but I'm lucky if I'm getting
We're
half
getting
that.
comments that you're freezing up.
Yeah, I can see it. I'm actually watching from my phone, which is connected, not Wi-Fi. Is it connected Wi-Fi? I'll take it off the Wi-Fi.
Does anybody have any comments? Does anybody have any questions? I mean, I think we really need to, I really feel like, we've sort of taken a huge step back, not just in this administration, but for years, right? In having a proper, like, review of, like, we don't look at what we spend money on. I think everybody feels that there's so much waste, fraud, and abuse because there's never really been a solid review of any of these programs, and we know that a lot of these programs turned out to be a failure. Okay, and what's interesting about that, though, is there's never been a proper, like, assessment of why they failed. Okay, a lot of them are really good. HUD is a really good program, but I don't. I think everybody feels like it's failing. And what is it failing at? It's failing at the fact that it's putting people in renters' prisons. Okay, right? Like, that's where it's failing. It's not moving people towards home ownership, towards building equity. And part of the reason is it's just giveaways, right? Every program seems to be a giveaway to a billionaire or a wealthy developer or somebody with money. Okay, and we've lost sight of the and that's the only way anything can get past them. And that goes to the corruption that we've seen is and not for nothing. I think one of the things that drew people to Trump is that he didn't give a shit about going out to bid. He didn't give a shit about getting lowest cost. He didn't get, because at the end of the day, he really doesn't pay his bills anyway. But outside of that, the government is paying the bills, and he's cut through a lot of the red tape. And I think that what has been so frustrating as for Americans and for all of us is all the fucking red tape and all the hoops that we have to go through to partake of any benefits, and that really has been really frustrating. But keep in mind, that is all intentional. Everything that is done is intentional. Okay. These programs were intended to fail. Okay. Right. Like when you start looking at these programs and you realize that the intent was failure, okay, that says a lot. And again, this isn't the people administering these programs. These aren't the hardworking people who work for the federal government. Okay. They're amazing people. They work really, really hard, and they're dedicated to their job, and they really want to help people as much as they can. I love, the workers who dedicate themselves to civil service, okay, and really go in and try to make an effort to help people on a daily basis, because that ain't fucking easy, especially when politicians have created an environment that is so toxic and becomes so frustrating to be able to get anything done. And I think that's a really big problem, and that needs to be addressed in some form fashion. And we need people who are willing to address it, not people who are just going to take from billionaires and then turn around and pass whatever the fuck they want as a giveaway to them. Like, enough's enough. We just heard, okay, that this administration is going to China, okay, to negotiate the opening of the Strait of Hormuz, right, with Iran. Okay, that they're going to do but are they taking political officials? No, they're taking all the captains of industry.
Yeah, because
Ellison's
that's more
going.
important.
Right, Ellison's going, you have Cook going from Apple, you have Elon Musk going from Twitter. Like, you have these captains of industry going. Okay? So this isn't a negotiation. This right from the start is not a negotiation. Right? You can see that right up front. I'm sorry, you don't take that type of heavyweight people, all right, for negotiation. This is a shakedown, right? And it's going to be very interesting to see, all right, how this goes, right? Because there's a symbiotic relationship between these businesses and China. Okay.
Yes.
Back when Reagan was around, Reagan was outsourcing everything. Reagan was running around the company saying, move your job from America to China. Sorry for all you people who love fucking Reagan, but he fucking did that. And all the statistics bear me out. In fact, there are memos from his administration to the businesses saying, outsource, you get cheap labor, and then we can lower prices here in America. Okay? So that's a reality that we all have to face, right? Is that's what he did. So all these businesses moved over to China. In order to be able to move over to China, what people don't understand is if you open up a business in China, okay, China then takes an equity stake in your business. You have to hand over
Yes.
10% of your business to the Chinese government. So that's why I thought the whole bullshit with TikTok was just bullshit, because Chinese government owns 10% of Apple, right? Like you don't seem to understand. They own 10% of these companies, okay? And not only that, right? Also very interesting, they have to hand over all their patents, okay? So, and all their all their everything. So the Chinese government has everything, right? This is why this is such bullshit. So now these guys are going to go, and what? They're going to try to bully China, all right,
Yeah, that's not gonna go over well.
into having Iran cave. Listen, what people don't seem to understand is that Canada just made a huge deal, like I think a $1.2 trillion deal, right, with Saudi Arabia,
Really?
okay, for gas. And guess what currency they're buying that gas in?
In the one.
Yes. They're not buying it in the US dollar. Okay. Every country is turning on the United States, right? These guys are going to go over to China, and China's just going to say, fuck off. We don't need you. Take your business out of China. We have all your patents. We make everything anyway. We can just keep assembling shit, right? And we'll make iPhones without you, without Apple, and we'll call it something else.
Yep.
You
Just
know?
called something
Not only
else.
that, I think the HTC phone anyway, right, that China makes, okay, that isn't allowed to be sold in the United States, I think it's actually a better phone anyway than anything being produced in the United States.
Never
Okay?
seen it.
Chinese the Chinese electronics far exceed anything we're buying in the United States. Okay? Far exceed. Just superior in every way. Okay. So, and their AI is superior, but none of that is allowed in the United States. We're not even allowed, right? Capitalist country, but we're not allowed to buy. We can only buy from American companies, right? Who bought and paid our politicians off.
Yeah. And yes, your mom is right here that, let me see what to put this here. Yes, this is also happening here with Trump now. He's taking a stake in some of the corporations. That occurred with, NVIDIA, right? And there was a concern about that, right? We didn't want China to gain access to our AI chips, and so they did a deal with NVIDIA, and then NVIDIA, I guess, sold to, the Middle East, and through them, China ended up getting access to that technology anyway. So, it really it
It,
sucks.
it's no, well, it's just dumb. You're in a capitalist society. Capitalism states, right? Like, the basic tenet is, um, competition,
Competition.
um, bre- competition breeds better service, right, and better products, right. And what we have in the United States is no longer capitalism. I'm really sick and tired of people calling what we have here capitalism. This is outright fascism,
Yes.
right? This is outright fascism. We have government controlling industries, period, right? I had, the Nvidia deal. It always pissed me off that the government gave these corporations bailout money and never got anything in return. At least now the government, right, the taxpayers got something in return. I don't like the fact that it's Trump and his administration, right? But at the end of the day, if the government is going to bail out a company or give a company money, okay, there should be a return. Return to the taxpayer. The taxpayers are bailing you out,
Yeah.
then you need to then the taxpayers need to have a return. This idea, like we keep doing this, right? And people and I don't know why people keep voting for the same people, the Republicans and even some of the corporate Democrats who keep giving money away to corporations without anything in return for the American people. Right? This idea that they are job creators is bullshit. They are creating nothing. All they
Oh,
are doing
yeah.
is taking it, either hoarding their money, right, or raping children with it. That's
Oh,
it.
god.
That's all they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. We live in some, strange times.
You can't say that they're not doing it. Did you see Mar-Lago today?
No, I missed that, no. What's going on at Mar-a-Lago?
Oh yeah, no, he had a high school band and a high school cheerleading squad giving him a private show.
So were there cameras present or no? We do Really? Jesus.
A guy linked to Epstein, who we know is a child, okay, right, from the files, okay, is sitting here, having a show of high school girls who are giving him a private show for cheerleading.
Wow.
I
It's
Listen,
in your face at this point.
if I was a parent in that school, I would be appalled. I would be absolutely appalled. I'd be like, no fucking way is my child getting anywhere near that fucking man. I don't care what his position is, right? I wouldn't want my child near anybody in that administration. Anybody.
It's like
I
a
wouldn't want
feature.
them.
It's a
It,
feature of the administration, not a bug. It's a feature.
so give your kids to this administration. They will take all of them, apparently, right? They will take all your money. They'll take all your girls, and leave you with all the debt. There you go.
Oh boy. Oh wow. So it seems that my connection is stabilizing. I'm not freezing up as much. So maybe we could try to talk about something
And
a
then you
little.
say that, and you
And I
froze
froze. And I froze. Right? Shit.
just when you
Um.
said that.
Oh boy. Oh, there we go. I'm back up to 99% wavering. Yeah, I was at 0% when I reconnected, but so I missed a lot of what Neil said trying to mess with what was going on with my internet here. But I wanted to bring up some kind of funny things. I was going to show a video. I'm not risking it at this point. If Neil finds one, he's willing to put it up. But some of you may have heard in obscure news about you remember the phones that the Trump administration was going to sell? Trump was selling like last year. His sons were selling it. Give us $100 deposit for the Trump gold phones. They're going to be made in America. You got to give us your deposit. Well, 590,000 people gave $100 for their deposit. Some people gave like multiple deposits, but about 590,000 $100 deposits they collected last year. And there's no phones and no talk about it, nothing about creating phones. And MAGA is going nuts. They're posting all over the place. And I wish I could show you some. Was going to queue things up, and I'm not taking a chance. So do some searching for that. But yeah, if you do the math, that's like 59 million bucks that they made and just walked away with. It's like
Listen,
the
it's said in the contract these phones may not be made.
yes, yes.
So they signed the contract. They knew what they were signing, and if they didn't read the fucking fine print, that's on them. You know, I mean, listen, they didn't read the fine print when they voted, so and look what they got.
I
So well, that's
swear
it.
if you ever see Ruth Ben-Ghiat, she's I mean, I tell you, we should get Ruth Ben-Ghiat, Heather Cox Richardson into a room together, and let them just go through with their historian stuff because it's amazing. But Ruth Ben-Ghiat specializes in authoritarianism. That's her specialty. And she talks about how authoritarians they kind of they hate their followers the most. Like they have more respect for the opposition because at least we know what they're up to and we call it out. You know, they try to demon us for doing that, but they know that their followers are like suckers. And so they exploit them at every moment, and this happens. And this isn't the first time that Trump has exploited his followers for money. What about the sneakers? Sneakers never materialized. The
What about
best
the watch? The
the,
watch.
the
Don't forget the
watch.
watch.
How
Yeah.
about the digital trading cards? How much MAGA went out to their mailbox waiting for the arrival of their set of digital trading cards that never arrived? And the other one is I was hearing about this today. The meme coin. Right? They all bought that meme coin when Trump came into office last year, and they were thrilled. They got the meme coin. They got their meme coin. They went to the bank and tried to deposit the meme coin. Come on. Like all of us in here, if you're in here, you're watching this, I know you know that a meme coin is not worth anything. But yeah, that's what's happening with these people. And it's just very comical and sad at the same time when you think about it.
Well, no, they have part of being a despot is wanting to put your name on everything,
Yes.
right? To have your name on everything, right? Because you don't have the confidence to go out there and stand on your own 2 feet. So you just feel like having your name on everything. I mean, we saw that locally, right? I mean, we just had to touch a truck here, okay? And in past touch a trucks, George's name had to be on everything. Okay,
Oh,
had to be
really?
on everything in the town. He had the helmets, the fire helmets, right? That had the town's that had his signature on it. He gave away town like little knickknacks, all had to have his name on it. I think frisbees that had to have his
Oh my
name on it.
God.
Everything had to have his fucking name on it, right? So I saw this weekend with the touch a truck here in town, that they had little trucks, little town trucks, right? Which I want one, by the way. Make sure everybody saves me one. I want to get one, but I want to know, did it have Frank's signature on it? Because
Oh,
George put his signature on everything, and I want to know if it had Frank's signature on it. Because I'm betting any amount of money, if it did have Frank's signature on it, they would be flipping their shit right now. Oh my God, he's putting his name on everything.
oh man. more more meat for them to chew on, I tell you. But yeah, I thought that was interesting about about the phones. I thought that was kind of
Yeah.
funny. Th-
Well, that's what they have to do. They have to put their name on their fucking everything.
Well, we're being branded, right? Right. Trump's face is all over Washington. Issues with that freaking reflecting pool, right? I think we were talking about that before we connected
I
and
was
before.
talking about that,
Oh,
right, I
did
talked
you
about
bring it
that
up?
earlier.
Oh, darn,
Yeah.
I missed it. I missed it. Okay, well,
Yeah, I
then we
brought that up right at the beginning.
okay. Oh, man. It sucks when your internet is just fucking with you, like it is right now, but now it's working. Now I'm screaming along here. I have no idea what that was all about. Um, so what else? What else did I have? God, I was
No,
doing
but this is what's so frustrating, is the fact that the way the just how angry the other side is about stupid shit, right? And they make it sound like all we talk about is stupid stuff. But the fact is you know, like, it came up, we were talking prior to coming on air, we talked about John Fetterman and his comment regarding the reflecting pool. The reflecting pool was originally supposed to cost like 1.7 or 1.8 million. All right. Trump then hired his friend to do it for 3 point whatever million, and now it's up to 13 million. And Fetterman gets asked the question. He's like, well, who gives a shit? You know, but here's the thing.
Tell you what, you
Americans
pay
don't
for it.
have fucking health care. Okay? We can't get health care. We cannot get education money. Like, everything has been cut. Okay? And you guys are literally spending money
Like it's
on
water.
bullshit. Right? Like, listen, I love the reflecting pool. I understand it needed fixing, right? But at the end of the day, you drove your fucking car on it, and now it's costing us like 5 times as much. And you turn around and you're like, well, fuck you, let them eat cake. Like, the emperor has no fucking clothes at this point in time. Wake up. They're literally just stealing money out of your pocket now. Just
You
like they were
know,
doing here in town, just like they're doing in Washington, D.C., just like they're doing in here. They're doing it everywhere.
yeah, I mean, it's like, that $13 million, that's not what it's really costing. It's just what we're really paying. You see, it's with our tax dollars. You
Right.
know? And it's the same thing. Well, look what happened last week with the ballroom, right? It was 200 million, 300 million, then it was a 400 million, then all of a sudden when they put the DHS funding through, they snuck it in at $1 billion. Like, what the
Right.
hell? What the hell? That's just like money laundering. They're just laundering out right out of the treasury into their pockets.
They really
Yes.
are.
Yeah.
In
And
every
and
way.
his personal pool guy in a no bid contract. That's what Knitter is saying here. Yeah. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
absolutely right. Absolutely right. So, yeah, just spending our money like it's water, but never mind anything for us. For the people that we just now we just work to literally pay the man.
Well, I mean, he just came out and said that he really doesn't care about whether Americans are struggling or not. That's not a
It's not the
priority
first
of
time he
his,
said it.
and the thing is, you now have somebody in office, just like you had here locally, that just doesn't give a shit about the people. Listen, they did this locally, okay? All it was about the parties and the celebrations and everything else like that. And you may say, oh, well, it was all about community. It was all about his vanity. There's a difference. And trying to get to people to understand the difference between when somebody is fake saying it's about community and another person saying that it is about community, right? Being about community is about hooking people up, linking people together to create synergies right within your community. Okay. It's about, if you are going to hold an event, it's about bringing people together,
Yeah.
right? And allowing that event to occur organically. Okay. And you shouldn't be the center of attention. The government should never be the center of attention, right? The center of attention is your people.
Yeah, but we
Okay.
don't matter anymore. They got the money, they got the power, they got everything they need. They got control of the military, they've consolidated all the power. What do they need us for except for us to work and slave and pay taxes?
Right, and that's the issue, okay? Is that, you have, um, again, the emperor is wearing no clothes, it's not about people, and that's sort of the biggest problem is that it's never been about the people. It's about these politicians who get in today. It's all about them because they want to get reelected. And you don't get reelected, you don't get elected in the first place, right? If people don't know who you are. Okay? If you're sitting there behind the scenes and you're allowing other people to be the star, okay? Listen, I know I linked a lot of people up when I was a councilman. You have people out there, particularly the Republicans saying, I didn't do anything in 8 years. I did a lot in fucking 8 years, right? There are a lot of people I fucking helped in this community, right? I didn't need to brag about it because that's not why I was there. Okay. I was there to do a job, and part of my job was to help manage the town's finances and make sure that people's roads were paved. Okay. And make sure that if we didn't need to tax them, we wouldn't tax them. Okay. And to manage the town's finances. All the other stuff was gravy on top of it. And I did all the other stuff well, but here's the thing, the money was kept from me. The finances were kept from me, and these guys literally ran the town into the ground. And now what are you facing? Because you were gaslit and lied to, okay? And then you turn around and say, "Well, I don't want to be taxed now. Maybe I should have voted for the other person." The other person wouldn't have been able to help you. You have two choices, either cut services or increase taxes. That's where you are now. And it's because of the way you voted in the past. Because you believed the bullshit that the other side was spewing. Because you believed the frame job that they did.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's just it, right? That's what we're trying to find out. Why Frank is doing this is to find what happened, what we haven't been told about, and the other side is spreading the message that it's nothing to see here, and that's been the message for the past 20 years, nothing to see here, 10 years, 20 years, however long this has been going on. Eventually, it just completely builds up, and now we've got this budget hole, and so Frank is looking for, I don't know if you all noticed, but I had recorded the Spill the Tea event from last Thursday, and I posted it. I posted it last night. You can find it on our YouTube channel. I did post a small piece on on the Wallkill United page as well, with a link to it, so you can also go there and find it. But he talked about seeking out new areas where he can bring revenue in an effort to avoid raising taxes. So there's a talk about that, talking about the Civic Center. Warwick wants to. Hey, Kristen. Um, Warwick also, not Warwick. Walmart owns a piece of property in the town of Wallkill that they've owned it for years. They've owned it for a couple of decades, and they finally want to start doing something with that. That's another avenue for revenue. So these are alternatives to either cutting services or raising taxes or both. So before people, and of course the other side seizes that and says it's going to raise the taxes 70%. I have not heard that being said at this point. Not me,
It
anyway.
listen, you're not gonna know anything about taxes until September. Talking about it now is so fucking ridiculous. It's so absurd. What
It,
you have is you have somebody trying to create hysteria and trying to gain it's like literally the kid standing up in the corner going, look at me, pay attention to me." And it's just, enough's enough, right? Nobody gives a shit anymore. We have real problems in this town, and we need to actually start facing them like adults. Okay,
yeah.
it fucking kills me that people have to act childish in this town, right? Fact is there was nothing funny about what happened when I was on the board, right? They may think 8 years of keeping me in the dark, right, was fun for them, but it wasn't fun, and it wasn't right, and it wasn't legal. I'm sorry, it just wasn't legal. There are laws, and they decided to violate them. And not for nothing, the town attorney allowed them to and didn't give a shit, and that's just the way it is. And it's really frustrating, and there's not much I can do about it now, right? But it just is what it is. And now we're here, and people have to start waking up and understand, like, this is your tax dollars, this is your money. you know your roads don't get paved if shit doesn't work right and isn't operating correctly, and we have to know that shit's operating correctly. Electing buffoons or idiots, right, to the position isn't going to gain you anything, right? There is no political ideology to running a business. Okay. I think we all saw that with Hertz. When Hertz decided to make a political move by moving down to Florida, what ended up happening? They went bankrupt.
Yes. Yep.
You know, like, you cannot, you have to, like, business operates a certain way, right? Just like I told you, these billionaires, right, who are now like, I'm going to leave New York because they're considering raising my taxes. It ain't gonna happen, because at the end of the day, they want the workers, and the only place they can find the workers that will help them in their business is New York. Okay. Look at Hertz. Hertz went down to Florida. They went down to a retirement community in Florida, and they couldn't find any workers because they were all over the age of 80, and they didn't have the right skill set.
Wait.
I'm sorry, jobs require a certain skill set.
Yeah.
Okay? Every job requires a certain skill set. Okay? I don't pretend, right, that I'm a dog groomer. I don't pretend to go around saying, I can groom every dog out there. I'm a great dog groomer. I've never groomed a dog before. I can't do it, right? I would never pretend to say I'm an expert at it. I would never pretend to say I know anything about that business. But you know who does? My colleague Denise here. So if that something came up, I would ask her.
There
Right?
you go.
I may be a finance guy, but when it comes to the business of dog grooming, I know nothing. Okay. She's the expert. Okay. We have to start relying on experts, and we have to start looking at different people around our community to lead. Okay. And taking those experiences, and I mean, like, we could have had a great board. We really could have had a great board. Okay. If you really look at some of the skill sets that people brought to the table, we could have had a great board. But they were so fucking partisan, it didn't happen. It
Yeah.
didn't happen. They decided that they were, and then they decided to attack me and just try to discredit me and all that. And what ended up happening? It turned out I was right and they were wrong, because at the end of the day, okay, you can't outrun time. Okay. And time always reveals the truth. Whether you like it or not, time always you just have to be
Good
patient
point.
enough sometimes to see it, okay? Because there's a lot of reality that people are missing right now that's gonna hit them really hard in 3 months, in 6 months, because a lot of the foundation for what's going to occur in the next year is happening right now, this very minute. It's happening right now, and people don't see it. They don't know, and then when it hits them, they're gonna be like, "I didn't see this one coming." I can tell you I did.
Well, we'll have to look ahead 3 months, 6 months and see what that is. With regard to just another touch on the Spill the Tea event and partisanship, um, Frank pointed out the fact that a lot of committees sort of fell by the wayside, where constituents can get involved and get on a committee and contribute in some way. And he said there was like a humanitarian
Human
committee,
rights.
human
There's
rights
a human
committee.
rights committee. Yeah.
There's a human rights committee. There's you can I think he said you can volunteer to be on the planning board or be a part of the planning board. S
You can apply to be on the planning board if they have a
Apply.
seat. You can apply to being on the zoning board if you have a seat. If you would like to reconstitute the Human Rights Committee was really pushed by Beryl. All right.
I
There was a
remember Beryl.
guy, yeah, there was a guy, he was a veteran. He was a great guy. I mean, you want to talk about love for the town. The guy had an amazing love for the town. Um and he was an amazing guy. He was really the heart and soul of the Human Rights Committee. We were all there for him. We were all there for him, and when it was a real big loss to the town, and to a lot of us when he passed away, because it never met after that. After that, it just sort of fell by the wayside. And when it comes to some of these committees, you really have to have somebody who's committed, right, to for the betterment of the town, right? Like, you're committed to wanting to do something for your community. And it's a great opportunity. If to be honest, if I don't know why Jill, that didn't wasn't her thing under George, right? Like, if that's really what you wanted to do, she could have done that, and put to use some of her her skill set that she has, about wanting to do more for the community and to the Human Rights Committee. Being town supervisor takes a different skill set. And I think there's a place in government for everybody who wants to do the work, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I thought the Human Rights Committee was a really, good idea. I actually wanted to learn more about it and things that they
It's
did
a it's a
and
great committee. It's a great committee. We used to do a lot of good stuff for it. So, like, if somebody, like, in your community, felt that there was a human rights issue, that they were, like, either employment or whatever, and they wanted to report it to the town, they could report it to there was a hotline for the town that you could report it to, and we would address that issue and determine what the best resource for the individual would be. It was a way to help people in our community who, didn't really have a place to turn to, when they were dealing with some type of, either poor work environment, OSHA violations, various other things, employment issues that they might have, where they didn't know where to turn to. Sometimes they might be building violations and you can report it to the building department, but it was really like for people who wanted to do something anonymously. They didn't really want to be known, they didn't
Mm.
really want to have their name out there. It was a good it was a great program. I really enjoyed being a part of it when I was on it.
So if, folks who might be watching who are here in the town or who might catch this, after it gets uploaded, um, I will, and you're interested in getting on a committee, contact the town. Contact the town, see what, committees are open. From what, just watch the video that I recorded. Just I recorded from my phone and had the phone balanced on my knee, and every time I turned the phone, that's where the mic is, so you hear the scratching noise. But you do hear the conversation, and he talked about the committees and that they have quite a few. So it's a great way to see exactly what goes on in the town because then you're inside there and you're interacting with those people, and to also do something to support the community. It's a good idea.
I can get most of the people to resign from the planning board tomorrow. "Hey, Frank, put me on the planning board." Half of them will resign tomorrow. Like that.
Oh shit, Neil's coming. Actually, I think so. Let's put him on the planning board.
No,
Planning board?
no,
No, he doesn't want. No, Neil won't go
no.
back.
I'm just kidding. I was making a joke. I was just making a joke.
All right, folks. Man, I am so sorry that I missed half of this whole thing with my crazy internet issues. Hopefully, by the time our next live stream comes along, I'll have that fixed because I'm going to have it out with Spectrum on this. Um, But in the meantime, we're getting past 9 o'clock. Does anybody have any questions or any comments that you'd like to make at this time before we sign off for the evening? Don't all type at once. How about you, Neil? Any final comments? You been handling all this for the night.
I've been talking all night. It's there's a lot to do in the town. I really would love to see more people get involved. I really tried to do everything I can to get as many people involved as I could. I really think that the town is a great place for us to join together as a community and put aside our partisan blinders, and really come together. And it's really unfortunate that you have this group of political, whatever you want to call them, like sort of ruining it for everybody, and
Party over
and
people.
right, and I would really just like to see us get back to, just being our community and working together to find solutions. I've never pretended that I have all the answers. I don't think Frank's ever pretended that he has all the answers. The idea is, we're open to suggestions. Um, all you have to do is talk to us.
Yeah,
Like, that's really what it takes is talking to us instead of, just criticizing, which I see a lot of. I mean, we Denise, you and I talk about your mom and her neighbors and stuff like that. The same thing. We're not bad people. you know, and the idea of just talking with us, you never know, you may get your way. I remember Frank helped out the chairwoman of the Republican Party back in the day when he was supervisor the last time. She couldn't get any of the Republicans to do what she needed done, and Frank helped her out. And, but it's like people don't care about those things. We used to be a different community. That's all I can say is we used to be a different community where that stuff mattered, and now it doesn't seem to matter anymore, and that just really makes me sad. It really
yeah,
makes me sad. It really makes me, and if you really want to know why I don't want to be in politics, that's exactly why.
yeah,
It just makes me sad. You do everything you can to help your constituents, to help the residents, and people believe that bullshit. And it just, you know, it's thankless, it's unfortunate, and it just shouldn't happen. Just shouldn't happen.
well, we live in such a hyper partisan, time, hyper political. Everything is politicized, every little thing. I mean, certainly politics plays a role in all of our lives in some way, but politicizing everything is just out of control in an effort to keep us all divided. And the truth of the matter is if we put that aside and sit down and talk with each other, uh, I think we'd realize we have a whole lot more in common. and who the real enemy is that we have to deal with right now, and it's definitely up at the top.
I really like what Frank's doing, his monthly Spill the Tea events. I
I think
think they're
that's great
absolutely
too.
fantastic. I It always killed me that George would hold his coffee with George events, right? Coffee with the supervisor events, and he would only talk to people one on one. He wouldn't talk to anybody as a group. He wouldn't take group questions at all. I thought that was really disingenuous, and very anti community.
Well, that
And
means he can pick and choose who he wants to talk to.
he doesn't have to answer any questions, right? And that becomes problematic because we all may have the same question, and I think Frank standing in front of everybody, right, on a monthly basis, okay, and talking and answering questions, and not all questions are easy. Not all questions are comfortable, but he is willing to put himself out there and to everybody, Republican, Democrat, independent, unaffiliated, you name it, conservative, and answer questions. And he does it for over an hour,
Yeah.
once a month, right? So anybody who says that he's not available or he's not working or he's not, that it's just bullshit. It's just bullshit. He's available. He's open. He answers questions. He's talking with the community and his constituents. What more could you ask for from your politician? He's doing more than any other politician is right now, anywhere.
I wanna touch
Okay.
on that for just a minute because 'cause I'm getting really sick and tired of this. Like, what exactly defines full time for you people? Like, and I'm not talking about the people here, but what really defines? Oh, 9 to 5? I mean, it's hours, it's investment in time, and so, they're worried about the clock being 9 to 5. Well, you guys weren't there 9 to 5 either.
Right.
That's I don't it's not about having a body in the chair. It's about getting the work done. And if you watch that video, if you come to the next one, just so everybody knows, I don't think a flyer is out yet or up on the Wallkill site, but it's June 2nd, which I believe is a Tuesday, June 2nd, at 6 p.m. from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Collect your questions and come
Right.
in and ask them. He'll give you an update. He'll talk for a while, and he gives you a really good, detailed update of what's going on. And you can ask about what he's talking about, or you can ask a completely separate question. But this whole idea of full time, yeah, that's exactly it. You need to be sitting at a desk. No, you're on the phone. You're dealing with things remotely. You're connecting
I
remotely. You're
I
working, middle of the night.
I could tell you as a councilman, right? I was working 40 to 50 hours a week, right?
Really?
It was absolutely insane. It was insane. Well, people call you all the time, and it's not like, listen, it wasn't about being in the office, right? You have all the stuff that you do on the weekends. You have all the meetings that you have to attend. You have to read all the emails that you get. I mean, you get like 100 freaking emails a day, and you have to read them. Like you got to keep up to date on shit. You have to. I didn't get any financial reports, but I mean, you're supposed to
Yeah.
read financial reports, right? Like there's a lot of work that goes into it, and not only that, the evenings, right? Away from your family, away from your loved ones. These aren't 9 to 5 jobs, right? I'm sorry, being a politician isn't 9 to 5. You call your supervisor at 9 at night, they're likely going to answer the phone, okay? Because they're working, okay? So I don't understand this whole idea. This is why millennials, right, and younger people are having such difficulty, right, with baby boomers and the older generation, right? It's because of the workday. I mentioned this the other day. Okay, this idea of 9 to 5 being at a desk. Okay, right? You think about it. Okay, you're not 9 to 5. You're at your desk 9 to 5. But if your employer says, "Hey, I need you to come in a little extra early or stay a little late," you do it because your boss asked you to do it. If they call you up on the weekend because they have a question, you answer the damn phone because they're a boss and that's what you do, right? Your commute to work, okay? That 45 minutes to an hour and a half in the car, you don't get paid for that, but that's really work time,
Oh,
okay? Because you're not at home doing leisure time with your family. You're not with your family, okay? So, the amount of time that you spend at work, okay, that you don't get paid for is absolutely insane these days. And the younger generation has picked up on that. It used to be with my generation, it was like you just worked and it
yeah,
didn't matter, right? But the younger generation has now realized that their time is money and means something to them, okay? And they're not about to give you time that they aren't getting paid for,
yeah.
okay? So people need to stop with it. He's available. He's answering questions. He's there. Okay. You may not like the way he's there. You may not just like him. That's
That's
fine.
really what it is.
All
They
right.
just don't want to like him. And
Right.
he's
And they
really a
don't,
likable guy.
and he's a Democrat and whatever. Just like it's nonsense. The whole thing is fucking nonsense, right? How do you want to help fix the town? Right? Your town has no bond rating. What's your answer? What's your solution? The town doesn't have its finances in order. What's your solution?
They don't
Right?
have
The
any
town doesn't have
solutions.
the town is lacking in proper policies and procedures all over the place. What's your solution? What's your plan? Because your plan has been we're not going to address any of those issues, right? And we're just going to let the town fall down the drain because we want to throw a big party that makes us the center of attention. Because that's all you did. For 4 fucking years, that's all you did. You didn't do the job. You were getting paid the same amount of money and you didn't do anything. You failed in every aspect of the job.
There you go. All right. We're way over time, and
Oh,
yeah, the
yeah.
achievement.
Yeah.
Let me.
Well, that's because you weren't here. Now you're here, and I like
And
having the
now we can
conversation
now
with
we can have a
you.
conversation.
You were gone for like
I
30 minutes.
I know.
Yeah.
Spectrum, man. Spectrum. We need to fix that. And yes, they're too busy making cartoons. Stupid idiot AI cartoons.
And for everybody wanting to know what I'm drinking, because Denise made a thing about it. All right, I am drinking an espresso martini.
Nice.
Cheers.
Oh god, got a comment over here from Knitter02. Most, if not all, supervisors in Orange County work in the position part-time. Yes, I don't believe there is a law or handbook that requires a supervisor position to be
No,
full-time. And I think part of
supervisor
that
and councilmen are not.
and
They're
I think
not.
that
They're it.
no, I know that, and I think it's because
Yeah.
it's such a short term. It's 2 years. Oh, and in this case, it's 1 year. So you're gonna quit a career for something you may not come back to?
So what you're doing is you're limiting your population to those in the position, right? You're limiting it to people who are retired or disabled.
Yeah, in more ways
So what they're
than
saying
one.
is so remember, right? Everybody was, listen, I work, but they were like, "Oh, Neil doesn't work," right? I worked. It was really hard. I had a lot of shit to do, but I managed it. And that's what people do. You manage your fucking work. you know? And I don't understand this full-time, part-time nonsense. I mean, you're elected official. Everybody who's elected sets their own hours. That's
Here's
it.
a simple thing. Is the job getting done? Didn't get done. If it was getting done for the last 4 years, we'd still have a bond rating. We'd have $405,000 in the bank that wasn't taken from us, right?
And we would have internal control. See, my thinking is my thing is we were told back in 2021 the town was lacking in internal controls. Right? Anybody coming in would hear that and say the first thing we need to do is focus on controls. Right? What did they say? They said, "Oh, we have them. Don't worry about it." They
Don't
lied.
It's always
And
this.
then and
Don't
then
worry about it.
and then somebody from the comptroller's offices said, "You have no controls." Because they told us that. Like literally within the first 3 months, they did a risk assessment and they said, "You have no controls in this place." Okay? All right? We published audio of that, right? Back during the election cycle of George telling us that. George
Yes.
telling us that, right? Okay. And what was their response? Oh, we fixed it. We have the latest and greatest. Right?
Oh
Right? I mean, it's
God.
been one lie after another. Just one lie after another. And when people lie to you that much, either you just are too lazy and can't be bothered to deal with the lie, right? And just throw up your hands and walk away, right? Or you're just dumb for believing it.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Uh-huh.
I mean, because like, I don't know how many times you need to be lied to before you fucking wake up and say, no more. The same thing with Trump. We have the same thing with Trump, right? Like, how many fucking times do you have to be lied to? You said it right at the beginning, like with all the stuff that he sold, meme coin, phone, watches, right? Like,
Give us money. Give us
how,
money.
how, like, like the lies never stop. At some point, you just have to wake up and say, I don't want to be lied to anymore. I don't want to be gaslit. I'm done. And you need to start saying that to yourself and start thinking critically, because you're going to be the type of person, if you allow that to happen, who's going to get that phone call, right? Saying, hey, we have a great deal for you. Just give us all your Social Security money. All right. And we'll get you 3 times the amount. And then you send them all your Social Security money, and next thing you know, you have no money left because it was all a scam.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. Oh, well, all right. We are way over time here, folks.
Yes.
Thank you so much for engaging. Thank you for your patience with my terrible connection. I hope to have that resolved finally, finally, finally by next week. Um, keep watching the stream for we'll keep watching the channel rather. I'll be uploading more videos and some cuts taken from we did a very long Sunday recording, and I've already broken out a piece of it into a shorter video, so you can go check the channel out on gaslighting. So definitely something we've touched on here quite a bit. Check it out. As always, remember to like, share, and subscribe. Please make sure you're subscribed. Lots of crap going on YouTube with algorithms, and I may touch on that in a recording later this week. But yeah, they are messing with the algorithms once again and suppressing the voices of the opposition, voices like ours. So definitely make sure you're subscribed, and make sure you click that bell so you get notified, because you may not get the notifications even though you are subscribed of any content that comes. And do the same for anyone else that you may follow or may pop up on your feed that's in the same vein. Uh, by doing that, it helps to feed that algorithm for all of us, and so that we all can get lifted up. All right. So once again, thanks guys for everything. We love you all. We appreciate your support, and we will be back with more stuff coming for you in the future. Take care, guys. Love you.
Peace out.
Yeah, I have